Hey listeners, wow, it's been amazing to see the number of people in the UK lining the streets and paying their tributes to Queen Elizabeth II and also where she's lying in state. And the last episode, we discussed some leadership attributes that the Queen has showed us over her time of 70 years on the throne. Today, we'll cover off some more of those leadership attributes. Let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas.
Well, listeners, it's been an amazing last 10 days watching the UK and the world mourn over the death of Queen Elizabeth II. World leaders have assembled and paid tribute to the royal world leader. And I've also referred, in my last episode, I referred to you, which was on part 1. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. On part 1, I also referred to an episode of which I talked about Prince Philip, and that is episode 132. So if you're willing to go back and listen to that, feel free to go ahead and do that. But this week, we're going to be talking about lessons from a royal leader. Of course, we're talking about here a final farewell. And this week, we're releasing that 3-part series, as I said. And what we're going to do here is get into part 2. But before we do that, just a reminder that in part 1, we talked about the 3 different other leadership attributes like committed, service, and trust. And how she dedicated herself to service at the age of 21. And then at her coronation, she talked about being worthy of our trust, us being the people, which is amazing. Today is part 2, and I want to talk about sort of 4 different areas here. One is around stability. The next one is around confidence. The third area is around sense of humour. And the fourth one is the people. Stability, let's start off with that one. And of course, 70 years as the Queen has been doing the role that she's been doing prior to her death. And as we said in part 1, that she was doing that right up to more or less the day she died. She's been there as a rock for both the UK and also the countries that she reigns, and also, of course, the Commonwealth. But she's also been a rock for many other leaders as well. Quite interesting how, she became a queen and was a female leader at the time when she did, opposed to other presidents and prime ministers and so forth, which was all male dominant. In fact, she was the only female leader in those days, and in that kind of position. It was just amazing for her to see it. You see, she has seen many things happen over those years, of course, and people want a leader to be stable. They want to know that they're going to be there. They're going to be there for the journey. They want to know that the leader is stable and knows where they're going, but also is solid in the position no matter how long it takes. Stability is a big, big thing for you and me as leaders to think about today. The next thing is around confidence. The Queen has shown her confidence time and time again. The ability to hold conversations with people, doesn't matter at what level you are at, had a presence that was relatable as well. You see, leaders today need to be confident. They need to have a presence in front of people, a confidence in front of people, and a confidence in any kind of situation. We look to leaders for that stability, but we also look for confident leaders as well. We want to follow confident leaders. COVID was a great example of how of late we've gone through a crisis, but really about those leaders that did step up and those leaders that didn't step up. Why? It was really important for the fact that people wanted someone to hang on to, someone who was a rock for them. And so having that confidence is really important. If we have leaders who are strong, confident, and know who they are, and know what they stand for, then we're going to be in a lot better position going forward, team. You see, leaders who are like that, to me, are really the backbone of leadership. They are really the backbone of the community, the backbone of business, and so forth. Now, the third area is around, actually, I want to talk about two things around third and fourth, because these two things I've been hearing a lot about the Queen in different interviews and talking to people and also watching people on the news as well. The two different areas, which is number 3 and number 4, is a sense of humour, and number 4, the people. In the sense of humour side of things, the Queen she's surely got a sense of humour. We've seen this repeatedly, whereby she has used that humour at times. There's the famous photo of her and Prince Philip, her late husband, where Prince Philip was standing guard and dressed in the Royal Guard's uniforms and so forth, and the Queen walking past and having a little bit of a chuckle to herself. We also saw with James Bond and the Queen for the London Olympics, whereby she jumped out of a helicopter. But what was quite interesting to hear was that none of the royal family knew that she was actually going to do this. In fact, when they started rolling the film in the Olympic Games and James Bond was in the palace, the Queen had her back to James Bond. And even the Queen's family were waiting to see who would turn around and play the Queen. To their astonishment, it was the Queen herself. And just wonderful. But also the Jubilee Platinum, or the Platinum Jubilee, where the Queen and Paddington Bear. And just to see her pull out that marmalade sandwich out of the handbag and saying that she might need that later as well was just fantastic. A leader who laughed at herself. A leader who laughed at situations. Leaders today, we all need to have a sense of humour. Okay, it shouldn't be at the expense of others. It's more about laughing at things than laughing at ourselves. Don't take things too serious. It's also part of building resilience as well, is able to have that sense of humour. Humour is a superb trait to have. And if you can help yourself develop that and work on that, that'll be a wonderful thing to have. The fourth thing, which is really the second other area that a lot of people have been talking about a lot in relation to the Queen, was the people. All I keep hearing about is how the Queen wanted to help people. How she wanted to help her family, but also the people of her country and the people that she reigned over in other countries where she was the head of state, and also the Commonwealth, but also other people outside of that. Always taking interest in people. In other words, people saying when you're with the Queen, you knew you were with the Queen, but also she was then focused on you. Apparently they were always surrounded by people. Always surrounded by people. The Queen had her inner circle around her. She knew who she could go to. Do you, as a leader, know who you need to go to? Who's your inner circle? She had the right people around her and her family. The right people in the sense, those who could actually help her and the organisation, and of course, help everybody else as well. It's really important to know who is in your inner circle, who are the right people to have around us as leaders to help us move forward in anything that we do. And so always take time out to think about, who do I want on my team? Who should I have around me? And if it's not the right people, then go and find the right people. So in summary here, what I want to talk about is that we've talked about 4 different areas here. Number 1 is having that stability, being strong like a rock and being stable. It's almost like having 3-legged or, like a 4-legged stool, how strong that's going to be and stable versus a 2-legged stool. So whatever you do, make sure those foundations are there and it's strong. Secondly was, of course, around confidence, having that presence, being there in front of people, but being confident enough, but not being arrogant, but being confident enough to hold yourself in any situation. The third thing was around having that sense of humour and laughing at yourself, and it's really important to have that sense of humour when whatever we do. Let's have fun doing it. Let's enjoy doing it, and let's not take things too seriously. And the fourth thing, which is the final area here, is around the people. Making sure that you have the right people around you, but when you are with people, be with them, be present with them, and make them feel like they're the most important thing in the world at that time, and at any time. Because you see, people is what makes this world move around. And if you can work with those people and help them bring out the best that they can be themselves, well, then that is what our role as leaders are to do. Bring out the best in people. So I brought you part 1 and I've brought you part 2 now in this special episodes around leadership lessons from a royal leader. Because it is a final farewell to the Queen. And by the time you listen to this recording, of course, the funeral has happened. Huge amount of world leaders have gathered for the funeral. Huge amount of people in the UK and everywhere around the world have gathered in the streets in London for the funeral. What an amazing time. What an amazing change. What an amazing experience that we're all here seeing, because this is history. Listeners, thanks for joining me on today's session. Rest in peace, Your Majesty.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.